Good morning, everyone. Or is it afternoon now? How's everyone doing? Good, good. My name is Ludwick Marishane. I'm from Limpopo. My entrepreneurial journey started when I was about 16 years old. I invented a gel that cleans your body without the need for water. So today I'm going to share a story with you about the theory or the mindset that we call mindfulness, how we used it in our journey in commercializing dry bath, and how we're using it in skills development, specifically looking at increasing the ROI that you get from the money you spend on bursary students in South Africa. So, okay, is it working? It's not working. It's dead.
Oh.
What happened?
Innovate.
All right, so I don't even know if there's a keyboard.
Kaz is coming, he's gonna fix it.
Oh, guys, load shedding on the controller there.
Hey, Bato. It looks dead, my brother. Oh, he switched it off.
The on button. All right.
He switched it off.
All right, thank you very much. All right, so in my journey, I invented a healthy cigarette in high school. That didn't work out. I tried to publish my own dictionary. That didn't work out. I tried to publish a magazine, security magazine. Also didn't work out. Keep in mind that I was on a 50 Rand a week budget from my mom, and that's all I could afford to work with. So all these ideas basically prevented me from dating. I couldn't afford to. And the idea for dry bath came about when I was in grade 11. I was hanging around with a couple of friends of mine in the Limpopo winter. Days are really hot, so we all sunbathe, and we had to go run an errand. So he had to go take a shower so we could leave. So he turns around to me and says, "Ludwick, why doesn't somebody invent something that I can just put on my skin and then I don't have to bath?" And as a teenage boy, I thought that was a pretty damn good idea. So I thought it existed when I started doing my research, and I actually found that the product didn't exist. The closest product that existed was a product called No Rinse. So they have a soap, which is liquid. You add it to the water doesn't get soapy. So you don't have the rinsing problem of the bucket bath. Now, I used this method of bathing throughout my whole high school career. That's how I stayed clean. That's how 2 billion people stay clean around the world basically every single day. And I wanted a solution that eliminated the need to get naked, if I could, the need to actually put lotion on, the need to actually get into the water, the whole process, right? Did a whole bunch of research to figure out how I could make the formulation. Took about 6 months to learn what ingredients I need to put them together, had the formula, filed a patent for the formula. I patented it myself. It cost 75 Rand. It would have cost 12,000 Rand if I used a patent attorney. And fast forward a couple of years later, we finally had the dry bath product. It's the world's first bath substituting gel. So dry bath is a gel that you put on your skin. As you rub it onto your skin, it removes your dead skin cells and dirt, and basically removes the need for you to clean yourself with water. The reason why the product works is because it removes full body odor. And believe it or not, the reason people bathe in the world is because of odor. Not because you need water to feel clean. You just only know water as the only way to smell fresh, right? So with all that research done, we basically also realized that bathing behaviors weren't changing around the world. So we're winning all these business plan competitions. That's how we funded the business. Our first competition was a government competition, which we won in first year at university. And then because it was a government competition, we won 20,000 Rand, but it was only paid a year later. And we learned how government works, and we decided we don't want to do any more business with government unless they come to us. So we avoided that problem and entered more competitions, local and global, and probably raised over 1 million Rand for the business just through competition. We haven't raised any funding, we haven't taken any debt. That's how we funded the business. Right now, thank you. Right now, 60% of our product gets sold in the US, 30% of it gets sold in Europe. We don't sell anything in South Africa. And that's because South Africans didn't understand the product for a very long time, or we didn't understand how to explain the product for a very long time. We had to actually figure out ways to explain the product that put people in the situation. So for example, we realized that the people who don't bathe the most now are actually the people who invented the bath, the Europeans. More specifically, the French people. 75% of French people skip a bath at least 3 times a week. So they bathe today, skip tomorrow, bathe today, skip tomorrow. That's actually healthy for your skin. Just like you don't wash your hair every day, you're not supposed to wash your skin every day unless you were sweating or you had dust or you had amazing dirt on your skin.
This is a new way of thinking.
And I want you guys to understand something very, very peculiar. When we went to Europe, we wanted to sell these sachets for 5 Rand, 50 US cents. They didn't buy it because they thought it was too cheap. They wanted to pay me 40 Rand a sachet, and that's what they pay me right now. South Africans, 5 Rand is too tight. Other emerging markets, actually 5 Rand was too expensive. So we've lost some very big deals because of it. But nonetheless, we paid attention to what the customers were saying. The customers didn't want a bath substituting gel. They wanted a gel that can clean you without water because they experience what we call dry bath moments. You wake up late for work and you can't take a shower, that's a dry bath moment. Your kids don't want to shower and they're giving you a headache, that's a dry bath moment. Half our customers in the US are not campers and people who are outdoors and who don't have water. It's mothers who don't have time to bathe their kids in the morning. They bathe them the night before. But all that was only discoverable or findable by us being mindful and paying attention to the problem that we're trying to solve. And that's what we pride ourselves on. We are problem solvers. So after having made dry bath work, the question was, what other problem could we solve? And one of the biggest problems we had within our business as a startup business after graduating university, all my friends became consultants or bankers, and none of them wanted to go start their own business. You couldn't recruit university students because they didn't have the business acumen, and a lot of them weren't even graduating on time. So we started looking at the issue of bursary students and how well they can do at university, applying the same mindful principle. So what we wanted to do long term was we wanted to come up with ways to democratize products. We want dry bath to be like Coca-Cola. The same Coca-Cola that the president of the American country drinks is the same Coca-Cola that the bum who's begging at the street corner drinks. And Coca-Cola is still worth $50 billion. And that's essentially what we wanted to do with dry bath and what we wanted to do with university education, was democratize it. Having been at university myself and having been a beneficiary of the Alan Gray Orbis scholarship, I knew some of the challenges that are involved in being a first-generation student at university, in your family. You studied alone, you got your bursary alone, you got to that university alone. You don't have the courage to put up your hand in the middle of a lecture hall full of 400 people to ask a question, let alone comfortable enough to approach your lecturer afterwards to ask them anything that you didn't understand. This is something that the more privileged kids have been doing. They've been tipped about what they need to do at university, which societies to join, which activities to get involved in, which things to do that are going to develop their skill set outside of the classroom, as well as succeeding exceedingly well in the classroom. We had kids who would use the learning management system at UCT who had lecture slides and past papers from their brothers, their cousins who'd been at UCT, and they were sharing it amongst themselves. As a first-generation student, I didn't have access to that. Right? Some of the issues you face is a lot of these kids don't even know what they're going to do in life. So it's besides just get my degree, a lot of them don't even know, why am I getting this degree? What job am I trying to build myself up for? And expectations at home are even heavier. You've got a degree now, why aren't you working? You've got a bursary, why aren't you passing? University is actually one of the loneliest places on earth. You'll be surrounded by hundreds of people, but you actually can't talk to anyone. And that's a reality for both privileged and unprivileged kids. So we looked at how were people trying to solve this solution or this problem, right? A lot of people, there are a lot of programs, both societies on campus, charities that provide tutoring, mentoring, et cetera, using volunteers, and thus trying to make it affordable and accessible. But what you realize with a lot of those programs is that there isn't anyone held accountable. That tutor is having issues with their boyfriend or their girlfriend on that Saturday when they're supposed to be tutoring someone. Odds are they're not going to tutor. And if they don't pitch, there isn't much you can do about it because they're donating their time. Right? If you piss them off, they're leaving. You lose another tutor. No one actually gets held accountable. Things aren't measured, documented, and reported on, and therefore no real change actually happens. The worst thing that happens is that everyone who's involved feels like they're doing enough when the reality is nothing is being done. So when we looked at this problem, we said, okay, companies have this problem. It's going to cost money to solve this problem. How do we provide an ROI for the business to incentivize them to spend the type of money we need for this program to work? So we looked at the problem from a financial point of view. A typical company that gives needs-based bursaries will always tell you most of their students either don't graduate on time, or even if they do graduate, they're not good enough to be hired even by the company that gave them the bursary. Why would you invest 120 to 150,000 Rand a year on a student and think that just paying their fees and giving them an allowance is actually enough, and let your investment be risked the whole way by not providing that extra step of support just to make sure you get the best ROI? So our argument was this. We knew our interventions would work because we'd been through university, we'd been through UCT, we knew that the different types of support mechanisms that were there weren't necessarily working. The situation was even worse when you went to Wits, UJ, etc. We've got one student now who's doing second-year economics, and all she gets is one lecture and one tutorial a week. At UCT, we had at least 3 lectures and a tutorial a week, and we had hot seats, and we had tutors that were available for private tutoring. So we had all this support, and students were still not making it. So our logic was, how about we take that extra year of university that most companies or most bursary providers do pay for and bring that cost upfront. So we charge about 25 to 30,000 Rand per student. It's almost like paying for a whole other degree to provide them with private tutoring, private mentoring, workshops to develop their personal skills. Everything is measured and reported on. You get a report on the student every single month. How are they doing personally? How are they doing professionally? How are they doing academically? We've had issues where a student got raped 1 year. It did not affect her academics until the following year when she had a fight with her friend, and her friend said, you deserve to have gotten raped. That's when it started affecting her academics. A year later, that everyone actually found out that that had happened. No one would have been there for the student to actually even communicate something like this, because the typical bursary manager is overworked, and if you're not performing, they cut you off. Right? Thank you. So when we looked at this whole solution we'd built, we thought, look, we've built this thing with our first client who was based in Cape Town. It's an asset management company. They had 15 students. We pitched it to them at the beginning of the year in 2013. One of the board members shut our whole program down and said the university provides more than enough support. Luckily, the bursary manager who deals with all the stress still kept and said, let's at least trial it. By the time they approved us, it was June. Our target was to cut their drop-off rate by 10% and increase their academics by at least 10%. After implementing the program for just 6 months, we cut their drop-off rate by 75%. As well as, over the past 2 years that they've been on the program, we've increased their employability by 300% and even more. And we pride ourselves on always agreeing to measures upfront so that even the bursary manager knows how to judge our success at the end of the whole process. There's no debates about whether or not the program worked. So one of the key things that came out, even with measuring employability, it wasn't an issue of, oh, did they get a job? What level of job did they get? Something below what they studied or something above what they studied? And then also the creme de la creme of measurements was how many other companies are actually keen to buy your student out of your bursary because they want them that badly. And that's what that measure is counting. The number of students that had bursary buyout offers from competing companies because of the level of improvement, not only academically, but professionally and the business acumen of the students. We originally had a big component in the program that looked at entrepreneurial development for an entrepreneurial mindset. And the company actually shunned it and said they just focused on academics. Now they're begging us to start providing that entrepreneurship support. Only possible through being mindful of what the problem is, understanding what's wrong with the current solutions that are being thrown at the problem by multiple parties in the field. And now we're also having to face the issue that it is an expensive program. We know that. Most companies are interested in getting it, but don't believe they can afford it. Now we're actually working on trying to build a fund where we can actually have bursary companies or companies that provide bursaries actually volunteer their students. And we have the international and local funding to then say we can match or fund the student to graduate on time and to improve their employability at the end of the process. Our whole argument is that if you are going to invest so much money and want to feel like you converted and solved one of the country's biggest problems, which is skills development, South Africa has a 50% unemployment rate. Finland, which has one of the best education systems in the world, has a 20% unemployment rate. The difference between these two countries, one is overskilled. That's Finland. Our problem is we've got jobs that are actually keen for these skills, but we're actually not even matching that. If we are failing the workforce that we've invested so much money in, how are we ever going to solve the problem of those who didn't even make it to university? Thank you very much.